everybody listen to Darren Carter. Yeah. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, listen to a Pocket Party. Pocket Party. Durant.
And we're back. Hey everybody, it's your host Darren Carter, the party starter, calling my buddy Stevie D, author, comedian, producer. Hello, Stevie D. We are recording. We are live on the Pocket Party podcast. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you very much for having me, man.
Sounds like somebody has Elvis fever.
I can't stop talking like a king and everything, man.
Dude, you and me both. Man. This is gonna be the most Elvis podcast you ever heard, baby.
Let's do it, man. Karate chops and fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches, man.
I gotta ask you a couple things. So I've seen the movie once, and how many times have you seen it so far?
2 and counting. So yesterday I took the crew. I saw it at Mann's Chinese Theater Hollywood, which was cool. And then because I was out there, a couple of weeks, and then yesterday I took my crew here in Tennessee, and they know, I've been the biggest Elvis champion ever, and they all love Elvis, but I really wanted them to see it, us to see it as a family and get everyone's take on it and really do a deep dive.
It's funny because I told my son, I go, yeah, I'm going to talk to Stevie D, and I go, I think he's even more of an Elvis fan than I am, and he was like, what? And because he knows the minute I get into my car, I put it on the Elvis channel, and that's the base, and then from there I maybe switch over to other channels, but that's my go-to. I just keep it on. I like the Elvis. I like the live performances. I like the tidbits of information, the fun facts. I like hearing Elvis in the studio when it was like in between takes. I love all that, man. Him introducing the band. I love all that. And he goes, how can someone, and I go, trust me. I go, Stevie D, he's really good. He knows. I mean, people can be, I guess, equal fans, but then when it comes to retaining knowledge, I mean, you've got knowledge.
Well, I've read so many books on him, and I was recommending a couple to you the other day, Darren, but I do, I've been doing a deep dive for 30 years of, I'm reading a book currently. I've been reading on the plane. It's the backstory on every single recording, which he did like 760 something total, whatever, but it's saying the date, the run, the Jordanaires were the background players, or was it Scotty Moore, or was it, James Burton on guitar? Like, wow. Way more stuff than anybody ever needs to know. But to me,
it's interesting.
It's cool that people in this generation, I'm glad that, like, my son got Elvis was cool, and he got that he had cool style, and he was influenced by R&B and gospel, and did his own thing, and wasn't afraid to be himself. I'm glad he got that, instead of some of this generation is only they only know the jumpsuit Elvis. You know what I mean?
Right. And by the way, what's the book? So maybe our listeners want to check it out.
Yeah, if you really want to get the essence of Elvis and those early, Memphis, Sun years, Bill Street, all of that, get Last Train to Memphis by Peter Golnarek, I think is how you say his name.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Last Train to Memphis.
Last Train to Memphis.
Last Train to Memphis.
Amazing book, yeah.
That was, I think one of the first books I ever saw about Elvis. Have you ever seen this one? The cover was black and it said, Elvis, what happened? ? Mm-hmm.
I don't like a lot of those books because, it could be his cook or cronies or valet, whatever, someone bumped into him for 5 minutes. There's been thousands of books on Elvis in the last years, and we all know what happened.
Yeah,
we all know
exactly.
what happened.
I know. Like that, I'll say one thing though. With that, I was like, I remember that book as a kid. I remember that book, and then I looked it up yesterday. When, and like you said, there's like the Last Train to Memphis, and there's a huge collection of books from coffee table fan books, for the fans, like every photo, and it's pretty cool. And then I was like, wonder what happened to that book, and I looked it up, and apparently it was written by 2 of his bodyguards and a third bodyguard.
Three of his bodyguards, yeah.
Oh, you do know about it? Okay. And
it was the book that Elvis was still alive when that book came out. That came out in 76 or 77.
Yeah, I read it. I think it got published a few weeks before he passed away. And
yeah, and it was not cool because like Red West, Sonny and Red. You hear Sonny and Red, Sonny, man, you're fired. All right, man.
Yeah.
You hear him say Sonny a lot or Red. So those guys were cousins, Sonny and Red. And they were friends of Elvis, childhood friends that worked for him his whole life, rode the gravy train. He bought them everything. And then there towards the end, when he was getting into financial troubles because his dad was his business manager, his dad, was not a smart man. He needed.
Yeah.
I never understood that, Darren. Someone could be, the most powerful entertainer in the world, but he didn't, like you and I talked about, he didn't care about finances, and he didn't want to be bothered with that. So he just put that trust in other people's hands. And when his dad said, hey, Elvis, we got to get rid of some of the boys, he fired some of the bodyguards, had to let them go, instead of being grateful for all those years that they provided, their families with Cadillacs and houses and everything else. They wrote a book to, cash in one last time. They betrayed him. Elvis even tried to call Red and had a phone conversation, said, Red, why are you doing this? And tried to pay him not to do it, stop this. Yeah. And Red even recorded the phone call and sold it to National. And what sucks is, I was a big fan of George Klein, who was a big fan of big friend of Elvis and huge in the fan world. He was had a weekly Elvis show on Sirius XM on the Elvis.
I used to love that. George Klein. Yeah. And can you do the impression?
Jeeker in your speaker.
The Jeeker in your speaker. I'm George Klein, and it's Memphis Elvis time in Memphis. And he would, he made when he would talk to you through the radio, he made Elvis and Memphis sound like this mystical place that you'd want to go to. He was like, I was at the Peabody Hotel yesterday with my wife, and we had a wonderful dinner, and that kind. You're like, man, I want to go there and run into him.
There's an iconic picture of when he was a DJ at WHBQ ever since the 50s, and Elvis stopped in once, and Elvis was at his most handsome, cool looking, and there's a picture of them together where George Klein sent me that picture and sent one from my mama.
Wow.
I said, GK, can you send? Because I told you about the phone call, right?
We went to school at Humes High School.
Yeah.
Tell us
George
about
Klein.
So
I told you my buddy in Memphis sold radio advertising, and he would call me sometime. And actually, we met in Atlanta. We were both at a nightclub. We had a mutual friend. I was over trying to impress the girls and everything, man. I was talking like a king and everything. And they said, man, that's pretty good. This other guy over here does Elvis. I said, man, I'll karate chop him right now, man. Sure. So he comes over. So he's saying, how you doing, man? I said, how you doing, man, everything. And so I'm like, that's pretty good Elvis. So we went way beyond the point of comfort where people are just like, okay, we get it. People are starting to walk away. We're still doing karate chops and the tiger stance and everything, man. And so to this day, we're still like best of friends. He was in my wedding.
You're like,
but he was
forget the girls, man. So what do you think
man.
of the new Elvis? You like the B-side of Suspicious Minds?
What was your favorite jumpsuit, man? I like the tiger suit, man. I like American Eagle, man. He's saying American Trilogy, man. He spread his cape and everything, the Eagle, man. So Mark called me one day. And this is years ago, and he goes, hey, Stevie, man, somebody wants to talk to you. I said, man, King's pretty busy, man. What do you need, man? So this guy gets on and goes, hello, who am I speaking to? I said, man, you're speaking to the King, man. Who the hell you think you're speaking to, man? And he goes, that's a pretty good Elvis. This is George Klein, president of Humes High School, class of 1953, and lifelong friend of Elvis. And I go, I said, man, that's the worst GK ever heard in my life, man. And he goes, Mark, your friend doesn't really believe it's me. So I go, man,
so good.
Yeah. I go, man, you ever impersonate my best friend like that, man? I karate chop your whole family, man. And so he handed the phone back, and Mark's like, it really is GK, man. I'm at WHBQ. And I'm like, can I talk to him again? Like, I'm sorry, Mr. Klein. Then I went on about too much information of his private life, and he's like, okay, settle down, Stalker. I get it.
Yeah, it's so funny. By the way, on a tip on that, I read that if it's okay to do a couple interesting facts about someone that you meet, but they say if you do more than 3, people get creeped out about it.
It's creepy, yeah.
Or it's like, I know. Yeah, you like Elvis?
George Klein.
Elvis.
Yeah. So if it's GK, Jerry Schilling in the movie has a prominent part as like his right hand man.
Yeah.
And Jerry always respected Elvis, did what's right for him. Jerry went on to work with the Beach Boys and other bands and to be a producer in Hollywood. And worked on Elvis That's the Way It Is and a lot of other, really, really good stuff. And so I'm sitting at the Coffee Bean one day, and like David Schwimmer's on one side of me. I think Sandra Bullock was in there. I could care less. And just on my iPad, I look up and there's Jerry Schilling. He's getting a coffee. Wow. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go refill my coffee real quick. Oh my gosh, Jerry Schilling. Dude, and he had the 70s hair, like feathered. I'm like, oh, cool. Perfect. So I kind of go up next to him. He's putting cream in his coffee. And I said, Jerry, man, I just really respect you keeping the legacy alive. And you've always been honorable to your friend and done the right thing. And I really appreciate. He goes, you know who I am? Like, he's like, holy shit, you know who I am? Man, I know where you live. I said, and so I went back and sat down. He was excited. Someone recognized him, and he finished making his coffee, and he was walking out, and the coffee bean was crowded. And he turned around and goes, hey, Stevie D, nice to meet you, man. So thank you very much, man, everything.
Oh, that's so cool.
Perfect. But I love meeting those that were like, just feel once removed from the thing. You know what I mean?
It was. What about Priscilla Presley? Have you ever met her, or talked to her, or seen her?
Dude, I've seen her. I just saw her recently. I don't know if I told you that. She lives in Century City. I pulled over. I had an appointment. I was like 10 minutes early. I pulled over, had my windows down, and I noticed a woman on my passenger side, like a little grass area with a little doggy. She walks in front of my car, and I do a double take. I go, that's Sheila, man, right there. That's Sheila. And I text my wife, Katie, because she knows I'm going to freak out. Yeah. And the dog's pooping in front of my car. And I go, should I tell her you're the only person in the whole world I'd pick up the poop for the dog for her? She's like, no, don't be creepy.
Don't be weird, dude. Yeah, don't be weird. Don't.
She's like, you would leave me for her. I go, no. She's kind of like my mama, man. I said she's 100 years old and a Scientologist. A little weird, but it was still, it was cool to see her.
Oh, I didn't know they were Scientologists. So you're a bigger fan. Yeah.
Well, Elvis wasn't, but Lisa Marie and Priscilla, unfortunately.
Wow. Yeah, they. I know Elvis was a very spiritual gospel guy. He did something that I guess a lot of people go to some meditation place in California, out in
the Palisades.
Yes, have you heard of it?
Yeah, Realization.
Yeah. There was I know a guy an older Jewish guy that would, because the Jewish guy is not religious; he's just born Jewish. But he goes, a lot of people go there just to kind of get at peace and meditate. And he said that I guess Elvis would go there.
Elvis did go there, when he lived in Bel Air and Bellagio Way. He would go over there. He always read deep spiritual books. He was always very spiritual, and I'm glad they captured that in the movie. His first love is he wanted to be a gospel singer. He wanted to be in a quartet.
Oh yeah.
And that's why when he got the chance to hire the Jordanaires to be behind him, and then he went on to work with the Sweet Inspirations and J.D. Summers and the Stamps. I met J.D., met Ronnie Tutt, his drummer, had Larry Strickland, his bass singer, on my podcast. So all those people that were once removed, you just can tell personal stories. Are just amazing, because he was a special dude, man.
That's cool, man. I before we get into the movie talk, I just want to keep talking about Elvis. I love when he does "How Great Thou Art," that gospel song. I love that. And there's a version I've heard where he does, like somebody will be like, "You like that? I'll do it again." Mm-hmm. He ends up doing it like 3 times. He goes, I don't care. You want to do it again? Let's do it again. All right.
He brings it back again.
My soul, my
so awesome.
So good. Man, I love it.
Did you ever see the documentary, That's the Way It Is?
I did. Oh, man. Yeah, cool. You know what, though? I see things and then I kind of forget how it goes. So some people have an ability to tell you scene by scene, different details. Yeah. I'm like, I could watch it again and it'd be almost like a completely, new experience for me. I'd love to see it again.
Yeah, the cool thing, I think it was maybe 15-ish years ago, they remastered it and put in some new deleted scenes that weren't in the original, which was cool. But there's some cool little candid moments in that. But also, I loved and the movie took from that a little bit when it showed him, when he had his Vegas act and orchestrating the horns, the horns, because Elvis was his own producer. Yeah. So he would hear something in his head. Prince did that. Michael Jackson did that. All the greats.
Yeah.
Have that talent where they hear it in their head. They hear the way it should be, and they tell the musicians how they want it played,
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys. No one produced Elvis, especially in the early years, You turn on the tape machine, and that's why, when he did That's All Right Mama, they were recording ballads. They didn't know what to do with him. And then they weren't recording when he just started jamming, That's All Right Mama in his own way, but he didn't do it the way he heard it. His influences was bluegrass, country, R&B, gospel, and he just kind of put them all in a bowl and mixed it up.
So good, man.
Came out
once in a lifetime. A guy like that. Come on.
Yeah.
It's wow, so good. That's all I like, and I love Austin Butler. The if you guys look it up on YouTube, there's a version of him singing "That's All Right, Mama." They show like the screen test or the something like that, and he does a good job with it, man. Really good.
Yeah, I told you the other day when I was goofing around with my friends, and we were gonna jam that night, and I texted them, "Hey, let's try That's All Right, Mama," because we had just seen the movie, and then about an hour later, I see it popped up on my scroll because, you know, I stalk everything Elvis, so I get ads all day long and information, and it said Elvis recorded "That's All Right, Mama" 68 years ago today, and I was like, "Oh, weird." Do.
Yeah.
King Shogner, man.
Yeah, I know exactly. You're like, it's so cool that Elvis's memory is alive and still thriving, and they're still releasing movies, and I love it because, you know, there was a time maybe in the 90s I felt like it was sort of, they were kind of putting it to rest, kind of making fun of him, and you know, there'd be certain things like said by, you know, rappers or whatever, Public Enemy, and I was just like, oh. And then to see it have the resurgence and to see people, I mean, I went into like this really, after my son and I saw the movie, Austin, we went to AusTheBassBoss. We were walking through the mall back to the car, and we went to this really hip urban sneaker store, and right when you entered, there was I think they call it a short set, where it's like the shirt and the shorts, they match. And it was Elvis image. It was, you never would have saw that 10 years ago, 20 years ago in a hip hop type store. It was so cool.
Yeah, I'm glad they showed Lansky Brothers. I've ordered stuff from Lansky Brothers for years. I've got a painting here I haven't even opened yet, by Ronnie McDowell, who got a song called "The King Is Gone" right after Elvis died. And now he's an artist, and he painted a painting of Elvis in front of Lansky Brothers on a motorcycle, and I've got like number 48 out of 50 signed by him. You know, and but I've ordered from Lansky Brothers for years. I'm glad they showed that. I'm glad, and I'm not glad, because now there's going to be maybe some douchey people wearing Lansky Brothers. You know. Yeah. But it's cool. Like just today, Lansky Brothers shared my story.
Oh, cool.
So that was cool. I tagged them like in a thing because I got a new belt buckle from them, and I wore it to the movies, and the whole family yesterday. The whole family was representing. I loved it. That my daughter, my son, my wife.
And are you guys? Are you for the listeners? He not only is Stevie a producer and many things, comedian, author. How many books do you have out now?
2.
2 books. I mean, that's great. And you guys go back and forth between California and guys out of all the states. Where do you think he moved? Tennessee, baby, Tennessee. You know?
Right down the road from the King, man.
Did you guys? Did you see the movie in Tennessee?
We did see it in Tennessee, yeah, which was cool.
Well,
and it was cool to see it in a different, you know, it's funny, I saw it in Hollywood at Mann's Chinese Theater.
Yeah.
There are three parts in the movie where people clapped, like an applause break in the movie.
Do you remember
those? I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, I think is when he was going to get arrested for wiggling his finger, you know, they said, don't even wiggle your finger. And he said, if you're looking for trouble. So it was that performance, I think. It was maybe Polk Salad Annie, where he's just ripping it up on the stage. And then, of course, If I Can Dream, which that, like a few years ago, right before quarantine, they had, I think, the 50th anniversary. You went to it also, of the 60th comeback special, whenever it was released. And when they showed that, my wife knew, because every time I lose it. Every time, like, okay, I'm going to need a moment here, just one moment,
when
please.
Those horns kick in.
Dude, that song. And if you know the message behind the song, like when you see the movie, you'll see why Elvis insisted on doing and wrote that song. They created that song for the special. And to think that the song was written the day before, there's no guide track, there's no way to sing it. The way he performed it, that performance is what came out of his heart and his soul. That was the first time ever performing the song ever. It was a brand new song.
There must be
birds. And he stole it. Yeah. And what was going on in the world at the time, and that message he delivered was very powerful, you know?
Yeah.
It was cool at Fox Studios, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. They did, maybe it was the 40th anniversary at Fox, and Mike Bender was there, the director, and Priscilla.
Oh, Steve Bender.
Steve Benner, sorry, yeah. And they and I had a really good seat up front. I was working for some red carpet, thing, whatever. And it was cool. You got to do a Q&A, and he talked about that song and that message, and how the Colonel wanted him to do some cheesy "Here Comes Santa Claus." And
right.
so,
Like they showed that in the movie. Why isn't he singing? I asked my son to.
When are you gonna think? Yeah.
I go, what were your favorite parts? And he was, he had all these different answers, but that was one of them. He goes, when the Colonel kept asking, when is he going to sing "Here Comes Santa Claus"?
And you're gonna sing the Christmas song about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And he's not there. Yeah.
Or what about
Yeah,
this?
but
I've been doing this impression all day. We are different, you and I. We are like little lost odd children reaching for eternity. We are different.
That's good, man. That's good. Not many people can do that one.
I can imitate Tom Hanks imitating Colonel Tom Parker. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. But I'm sorry. Finish your story about the.
No, I'm glad they showed that backstory. There's, like you and I talked about, there's things they left out, and for the purpose of keeping the audience's attention. Because
what was the difference? I'm sorry. Let's circle back. Let's circle back. I've been hearing that phrase. Let's go back to what you were saying about the difference seeing a movie in Hollywood at the Chinese theater as opposed to Tennessee. Was it?
So I don't know what it was about seeing it in Hollywood where people were like, oh, I don't know if they didn't realize how powerful a performer he was. What he brought. And that energy and how he just moved people. But they're like, oh my God. And in Tennessee, they all loved it.
Yeah.
They loved it, but they were more in touch. Like you and I said, like, that's my jam too. I grew up poor. I grew up in government housing. So I get every element of his backstory. And, I think it resonated with me and probably a lot of people there in the theater with me. Dude,
yeah, exactly. Like I have sideburns and I have a lot of screaming women every time I hit the stage. I mean, that's my jam.
Exactly.
That's my jam.
So we know. We wear jumpsuits.
We know we wear jumpsuits. Yeah. I like peanut butter.
I like the Bible, little girls in their panties.
That's right, baby. Move my pinky. No.
We talked about that. No, but like my son, to see it with my family meant a lot. And my son, after the movie, he's a sensitive guy, and he got it. And he just sat there in silence for like 10 minutes, Darren. He didn't say a word. He read,
Plus, they know they got to make Daddy happy. You can't be like, "Hey, Dad, that was boring. Why can't we see Top Gun or something?"
My daughter was like, "Can we get an ice cream now?" You promise.
You promise. And you're like, "Let me just take it in." As the credits roll, you got to take it in, man. You got to. Yeah, I get it. You guys sat there.
It's going to be a pop quiz.
Pop quiz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They haven't till 8:00 tonight to turn the test in.
What was your favorite part? The whole thing, Dad. Now, can I have my cell phone back?
Yeah. Can I have my PS4?
Exactly. Man, I'm telling you, I know when you said sensitive guy, the way the movie ends, towards that last, I don't know if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when the real Elvis, the footage drops in, and then...
Spoiler alert, but don't tell everybody. But
I know. Well, luckily we have a small loyal fan base we know you guys have already seen this movie. But yeah, that was just like out of this world, man.
Yeah, pay attention. The first time I saw it in IMAX in Hollywood, and I don't know if the screen is wider. I don't know what the deal. What's the deal with IMAX? Is it wider or more in high def or something? But if you can look at the sides, because there's a lot going on. And the way it was shot, and Aloha from Hawaii was shot like that 70s split screen sometimes. Yeah. And if you look at the other images when he's walking on stage, his back's to the audience, stuff like that, then it's the real Elvis. And they start towards the end. I think Baz did that subliminally because at the end when he switches, no spoiler alert, but what he does there at the end.
And then there was like a monologue that as you're hearing him play and sing. And then, oh my God, how they use music. They use music in a certain, a person will say a word and the music drops right there and it just gives you goosebumps. There was something about, I didn't kill Elvis. Whatever. Yeah. Love. And then what happens right there? There's like Colonel Parker says something.
People think I killed Elvis. I didn't kill Elvis. Love killed Elvis. Something like that, right?
Yeah, and then right when he says that, you're hearing Elvis sing like...
Oh, yeah.
Unchained Melody, and he says the word love. My love.
Yep, yep.
My-
Yeah, he talks about love in the song. So yeah, that was a good drop. You know, Baz, he did an excellent job. I was a little worried he was going to go a little flamboyant, over the top, but I love that he dug in there with Big Mama Thornton, showed, you know, Little Richard, B.B. King, all the Bill Street influences. You know,
I think
Elvis.
they did a lot of research, and I think they did give it a lot of respect, because you're right. I was like, you know, come on, like, don't, you know, like, I didn't want them to make a movie and then not show it in the best light and just try to make, you know what I mean? I think they did a
Well,
lot.
that's always my argument when people go, "Oh, he took from black artists." I'm like, you understand? He grew up with poor black people. He was a poor, you know, black person. He went to tent revivals. He went to black churches. We grew up around bluegrass and country. So he created a genre and integrated at a time when audiences were segregated. Black artists were played on black stations. White artists played on white stations. You went to a concert, even shows in the film, it says black people, white side, black people on this side, colored, whatever it says. And he integrated that. They didn't even know he was a white guy singing, you know?
Right.
But, and, you know, so I'm glad they did their homework. I think Austin.
Austin Butler. And I've watched some interviews on YouTube, and they did a lot of research. They'd go back and they'd find people he went to high school with, or different, you know, friends back in the neighborhood, back in the day. It was really cool to see that, you know?
Yeah, and like Marion, the secretary at Sun, was a big champion about. He's the one that brought him to Sam and said, "Pay attention to this kid." And no, I'm glad they really did their homework. And like you and I talked about, they skipped over a little bit, but the movie could have been 8 hours. So, you know,
I know. What were some of the things they skipped? That was fascinating to me. I didn't know. Like, do you remember what you were telling me about his father remarrying?
well, yeah, they didn't show he married some bimbo named D Stanley in Germany when he went to stay with Elvis after Elvis's mom died, and there was like an officer's wife, and people would come over to Elvis's house in New Balheim, or however you say it there, New Badheim, and jam in the evenings. And so a couple of his buddies could invite pretty girls or officer or whatever. And so this woman wanted to get close to Elvis and, you know, the Presleys. So she started hanging out, and she was married and started having an affair and divorced and married Vernon like soon after, and had 3 sons, you know, whatever. But so Elvis wasn't too fond of her, and I'm glad they kind of skipped over that.
She already had 3 sons, or she got pregnant?
No, she had 3 sons.
Oh.
You know, these Stanley boys could say, "I'm Elvis's brother." It's like, no, you're my mom. My dad married a bimbo and had 3 kids because,
wow.
you know, my mom was married a bunch of times. My dad, you know, you and I have talked about halves and step siblings and all kinds of dysfunctional shit, you know. But no, also he did, you know, 3 movies before he went to the Army. They didn't show that, but that was, you know, it's cool. You know, the Colonel wanted to change his image. I think J. Edgar Hoover was even in on that. You know, he's corrupting the youth, and there was a way to get him to, you know, to calm down, is, you know, send him to the Army.
I'm reading this Frank Sinatra book, and J. Edgar Hoover had a whole file on Frank Sinatra and trying to take him down. It's crazy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he was cross-dressing.
Yeah.
J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah, I know. There's
skeletons.
Yeah, dude. There was
Shirts in his closet.
Yeah. Hey, have you got a chance to go to Graceland?
I have been to Graceland. I went when I was 22, and that meant a lot to me because, you know, Elvis bought Graceland when he was 22, and so I think I wrote on the wall, 22 for 22. So like, I'm gonna blow up when I'm 22.
Yeah. That's funny. You could write on the wall. Oh, I didn't even write on the wall. There's a wall you can write on over there.
Yeah, on the wall. Well, the front wall I just wrote on, but I don't know if you can still do that today. But yeah, I want to go. There's that it's called the Guest House. There's a new hotel built behind there that's all Elvis, everything.
That's so
and
cool. We went twice. I went when I was 10, but it was within 6 weeks of his father passing, so the Graceland was closed at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But his Vernon's brother was, I think, the groundskeeper, and
yeah, he's working the gate.
yeah, he worked the gate, and I remember my dad talked to him, and I was like, "That's so cool!" Like,
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
crazy.
Like, we're kind of, you know what I mean? It's not exactly Elvis's, but it is though. It's like, it's so cool. Like
Presley.
yeah,
He talked to Elvis's uncle.
right. And then,
I was just telling my wife that last night. It was so crazy. I said, you know, his uncle used to work the gate. This old geezer they gave a job, sitting at the front gate. I'm not like, what's he going to do if any stuff goes down?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's funny when you do get into show business, the more deep you get into it as a comic or whatever, you start to, a lot of the sizzle goes away and you do start to see, like kind of what it really is. Cause you think logically like, oh, you know what? Let's give them our family member a job. This is, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of see how that works. It's like people, that's why they do like self-produced movies and I didn't even think about that back in the day. I'd see some, I remember there was this comedian and he was in a big movie or pretty big movie. And then I looked closer to the credits and it said produced by, and it was produced by him and his manager. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just something I never even paid attention to back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The cool thing about in the movie also, they show Elvis, if people just got out of his way and let him trust his instincts, because everything he did, and he went against the grain. Colonel Tom said, "You're not going to do that." He did it anyway. It was a massive success, and each one was a different chapter in his life of what his vision was. So, but he had all these. He had people like the Colonel trying to control him. He had too many yes men around him. He had people you can't trust. Here's a cool thing Elvis did when he first got Graceland and first was blowing up, and in the movie, it shows like his cousins, everybody driving golf carts, running in and out of the house. Everyone, had their hand out and had a sob story. So what Elvis did at Christmas one year, he covered his whole bed with $100 bills, Darren.
Wow.
And he invited all of his relatives over. Relatives, the cronies. He stood at the bedroom door right outside. And he'd come up and he'd say, "Merry Christmas," going in, and he goes, "Just take what you need. Take what you need." He didn't say, "Here's 300, here's 500, go take what you need." So the ones that just come in and were conservative and said, "Okay, I could use 200 to pay my rent, to buy groceries or whatever," they left. The ones that came in, because he had someone in the room, like he had his dad or whoever was in the room watching who took what. So then the ones that were greedy and said, "Oh, I'm going to take $10,000, man, I'm going to be rich." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Now that son of a bitch was off the list. No more no more Cadillacs for them. And the ones that were conservative, he then went and bought like a Cadillac, or he took care of them forever.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's a smart way to take care of it. I saw a clip. It said the real story behind Elvis and Colonel Parker, like the night that he fired Colonel Parker or whatever. Have you seen that clip or heard that story about the Italian waiter at the International Hotel?
Yeah.
Tell us some of that story.
Well, I don't remember that story exactly, but it was something to do with the waiter had cancer.
I believe it. I only saw the video once. Like I said, I don't remember things very well. But yeah, his mother, I guess Elvis, as you would imagine, when you're a resident at a hotel, you're having a Vegas residence, you get to know people. So he became very friendly with that Italian waiter, and then the Italian waiter at one point said, he goes, "Hey man, I haven't seen you too much. Where you been?" And he goes, "Well, my mother has cancer. I've been going to hospital, blah, blah, blah." And I guess Elvis somehow helped out. I don't know what he did. He helped out somehow. And long story short, the hotel found out about it and wanted to fire the waiter. Maybe they did. I don't know. And there's actual footage, audio that I listened to where Elvis is on stage and he brings that up. And in between songs, he's like, "Hey, by the way, there's a fella that works here, blah, blah, blah. And the hotel wants to, they want to let go of him, but please don't do that. Please, let the man have his job,
Yeah. No, he was a very sensitive and kind person. He did stuff for a lot of people. He helped out people that with no fanfare. There was one, I think it's in the maybe the last train to Memphis, where he gets a call one night and there's a little girl with cancer, and this lady said, "Can you meet her?" or something like that, and he just went over there, put her in his lap, sang songs to her, paid her medical bills, things that you never even hear about. Nothing, not everything is a photo op. There's pictures of him with March of Dimes, and a lot of people don't know that he helped pay for the SS Arizona and Hawaii.
Wow.
For Harbor.
Wow.
So, go on YouTube. There's an amazing concert that he did. And it was one of his last ones, had Boots Randolph, had an amazing...
Oh, yeah. Boots Randolph, you guys, saxophone player, yakety sax.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Kills it. Go find the audio recording of Elvis Arizona Memorial concert. They were short on money.
Wow.
They couldn't finish it, and Elvis did a benefit concert. But no, the movie was pretty accurate on the things that it did nail. Steve Allen tried to make a buffoon out of him, thought it would be funny with the Hound Dog sketch.
Jeez.
Ed Sullivan, I wish they would have shown, you and I think, talked about, like, he went on Ed Sullivan when he was supposed to be this filthy, controversial, vulgar, thing.
Hip shaking, pelvic thrusting, yeah.
Yeah, and he asked the director if he could sing a gospel song for his mama. And the guy goes, "Kid, we don't do gospel. We don't do any gospel songs on the Sullivan Show." And he said, "I promised my mama." So he went directly to Ed and said, "Mr. Sullivan, I promised my mama I'd sing Peace in the Valley, man." And he said, "Let the boy sing the song." And after he sang that, that's when you can go on YouTube and see him come to Elvis, hold out his hand, shake his hand, and said, "I want America to know this is a fine young man. I've never met a more decent young boy in my life."
Wow.
And then Elvis said, "Got any daughters, man?"
Yeah. Man, it's amazing when, like, I love how they portrayed that with the when in the beginning of the Elvis movie, when he's wearing like the pink suit or the pink pants, and he's on stage and some guy's trying to heckle him, and then he really goes into it, and the girls start screaming one by one.
Yeah.
They just get like into it, and it's like, I guess something like that had never really happened that often. I mean, it might have happened here and there with Frank Sinatra or whatever, but like that was just amazing. Like at that level, like that age group.
And he took it. Yeah, the shit he had to take, and he could have easily. I mean, can you imagine how brave you had to be just to face that every day? And I was telling my son yesterday, I whispered, I go, "Look how mad all the guys in the audience are," because the girls were freaking out.
Yeah.
But I just thought just now, what they didn't show is when he played at the Grand Ole Opry. And I think it was not Ernest Tubb. It's one of those old geezers that told him to go back to driving a truck.
Yeah.
And he was never invited back to play the Opry.
Not Hank Snow. In the movie, they showed Hank Snow, but I don't think it was him.
Hank Snow, yeah, was represented by the Colonel too.
Yeah.
But no, man, he electrified the world, and I'm glad they captured that. And
you know what's interesting? Now this is Frank Sinatra, but I heard this in the book. In this book that I say reading, but I'm listening to it, and they were saying that when Frank Sinatra would play like the Paramount Theater in New York, like when those girls would go crazy. This is back in like the end of the 40s or the 50s or whenever. He said that what would happen, and this makes sense. It makes sense. Like these women would go, they didn't want to lose their seat, so eventually they would like just pull their shorts with skirts down and just pee right there, and Frank's according to this book, Frank goes, "I learned after a while, don't go out into the crowd." Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, because there's urine down there and stuff. So that because girls didn't want to get up and go use the restroom because they'd lose their seat because somebody would rush the stage and take their seat.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard.
I still do that, Darren.
You go to a concert and just whip it up, take a whiz. It's like, dude, it's a 35-minute concert. Can't you hold it?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, wow.
I know.
Have a lot of water before you came in?
Yeah, we did go to a country concert once that was outdoors, and we were on the lawn, and then people kept peeing behind us. Because
you're in Tennessee, Darren. Yesterday I'm on the freeway by downtown.
Yeah.
I pull like an off ramp. It's not even in the country. And there's a truck pulled over, and the doors are open. Two good old boys are standing outside. I'm like, oh, the truck must be broken. They're both taking a whiz right off the side of the freeway. Like, like 1,000 cars are going by them. And I honked and said, "Woo! Show it, cowboy."
Yeah, you're like, dude, guys, do you got to pull your pants all the way down to your ankles? Hello.
Why do you have to bend over to pee?
They're both squatting. I got to squat, Buford. No.
Yeah. Pull over here and take a squat real quick.
Jeez. How hard is it in Tennessee?
Today's 90. I just took the Trans Am out. It took me 15 minutes to pry myself off the leather seats.
Oh my gosh.
Seat tops were off. It's hot and it's humid, man. I'm sitting upstairs right now, the air on, and just sweaty.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's we're at the farm, and it was 100 2 hours ago. So I don't even. It's supposed to get up to 106. It's funny, they have a local radio station here, and they're like, I remember they used to do this campaign. They'd be the 106 KKDJ. If you guess the first day that Fresno turns 106 degrees, you can win $106.
Oh yeah, That's great. Yeah, in the valley, I lived in the valley out there. It'd get 114 up in the one teens.
Gosh.
But here, like, I grew up in Kentucky, not far from here, and we had concrete floors, no air conditioning, so we would sleep on the concrete floor in the summer for just a little bit of relief.
Dang. You're like my dog and cat outside, man.
Yeah, no AC.
Yeah.
Just no car, just like poorest of the poor. But my mom, we had like one fan. She would put it in the window facing out, and she thought it sucked the heat out of the house.
Oh yeah, that's what they think. Yeah, I don't know.
Mama, I think you turn it on me.
Yeah, it's like that's not really working too well. Like, yeah.
Heat doesn't know it's supposed to leave the house, Mama.
Get out of this house, you heat. Yeah.
But my mama loved Elvis growing up. She saw him, I think, in '76, like a year before.
Cool.
And I remember her, and to this day, of course, she had like $13 seats up in the nosebleed.
Yeah.
But she goes, one time he came over the stage, he just looked up at me and with that grin and winked. He just winked. I go, he winked at you. 25,000 screaming women, and you're in the nose, and he saw you.
That's so cool.
He looked at me with that hand and just winked.
Yeah, I think that's what ticket prices were, because somebody, my wife was telling me that I think it was like $15 to see him in Vegas, like in the 60s. I think that's what it was. Like, with
I've so many treasured little, mementos that people. One lady, I was dating this girl, and her mom called in on the radio station when she was like 17, and won an Elvis 45. She gave me that because I wanted. George Klein had sent me stuff. Just stuff like that I have that. Someone gave me a menu, of 1972 from the showroom of Elvis. Just what the guy that I went to see it with in Hollywood, a mutual friend, and he showed up. We were going to see the movie. Gave me the 1977 Rolling Stone Elvis on the cover after he died, which I brought back to out the frame. But stuff like that. I just need to meet at least get a jumpsuit and I'll be good.
I love that, like the way that the movie looked, like with the word Elvis, like how, you know what I mean? Like the graphics and the way it looked. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean? And I think you posted that with the Lansky brothers. Is that a belt buckle?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Lansky brothers is the clothing store on Bill Street where it's cool because I just got the belt buckle and I was hoping that they didn't have it made. Like Baz just had this design, the graphic artist or whatever. In the movie, it opens up and it shows this bedazzled, badass buckle that says Elvis TCB in the middle. I go, I need that buckle. But there wasn't a buckle. So Lansky Brothers did a limited edition. They already sold out. Wow. And I got one.
Wow.
And so they send it to you, and inside is all this authentic Lansky Brothers quotes from Bernard Lansky. And he goes, I was working in the store one day, and I look up, and I see this young man standing out looking in our display window. And I walked out, and I said, hey, young man, you want to come in and look around? He said, Mr. Lansky, I ain't got no money, man, but someday I'm going to buy you out. And he goes, well, son, I don't want you to buy me out. How about you just buy from me? And he goes, and when Elvis got money, we had an everlasting relationship from that day on.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah,
I heard him on the radio once on the Sirius XM Elvis channel, and he had a nice way of talking. How like he talked like a, you know what I mean? Like he talked in rhymes, kind of sound like a 50s DJ.
Bernard or GK?
I want to say probably Bernard.
All those dudes were hip back then, man. That all the DJs back then, Wolfman Jacks, all those guys had to be like hip cats, man.
Yeah.
But no, I love that. I love that whole era. Sun, have you ever been to Sun Records?
I did. I went the last time I played Memphis. I took the tour during the day, and it was amazing. It's right there on a corner, and it's like a triangle type of entrance, and yeah, you get to go in there and be in the very room that they recorded that music. It was amazing.
Yeah. Go back. Do you know who Dewey Phillips was?
Yes. Yep.
The DJ. Yeah. There you go. I was testing you, Darren.
Yeah. They showed us how
Dewey Phillips was the first person to ever play Elvis, and he played it over and over and over. And then, of course, Elvis was afraid, so he went to a movie, and they had to go find him. And they said, Dewey Phillips wants to talk to you at the station, WHBQ. They took him in the station and sat him down, Dewey Phillips, and it was crazy. You could probably go on YouTube and
here's some Dewey Phillips. You know, talk jive and rhymes and.
Oh, I got to look that up. I love that, the way those guys talk. I remember when we were in the Sun Records, the guy giving the tour goes, and this is how Johnny Cash would make that famous sound, and he kind of would thread a dollar through like the guitar string, so it would make that.
Oh, that's cool, man.
That, you know. Stevie, I don't want to hold you any longer. I know you got things to do. I want to thank you for taking a small part of your day on the Pocket Party podcast. And any words of wisdom or thing you'd like to say before you leave?
Well, go see the movie. You'll get it. And if you don't get it, we can't be friends.
Yeah. The names of your 2 books, so people can check out your books.
The Trans Am Diaries is number 1. And the second one is Chronicles of a Hollywood Hillbilly.
Love it. Stevie, you're the best. Steven Dupin. I might on the thing say Steve Dupin. D-U-E.
No, it's Stevie D period.
Really? Are you sure? Okay, cool. I didn't know what name people...
I don't go by my government name. I got an outstanding...
Well, on your book, it's like author Steve Dupin, but...
Yeah, it just sounds smart. No, Stevie D is good.
Stevie D.
I got outstanding words, Darren.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for taking your time. All right, man. TCB, taking care of business in a flash.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
You got it. Wow, Stevie D. That was so cool, you guys. The one and only Mr. Stevie D. Thank you. All right, guys. If you enjoyed this, I know we did 2 Elvis podcasts in a row, but what are you going to do? I love Elvis, and I hope you do too, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we hope we made your day a little bit better. And if you want to help make my day even better, send me a little something on that Venmo or that Cash App. It could be whatever you want, man. Just help buy a cup of coffee. Keep me motivated. Let me keep doing this, all right? Venmo at Darren Carter Comic. Cash App, it's $ Darren Carter Comic. Or if you like PayPal, go to darrencarter.com. Click that donate button, all right? And in the meantime, you guys have yourself a great day. Stay cool out there in this summer heat, and we'll talk to you real soon. Lots of love. Don't hurt nobody. Don't hurt nobody. Be careful.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to the Pocket Party.